I never imagined my 30th birthday would be the day my world cracked open, the day my own family would hand me a wound so deep it felt like my heart had been carved out. My name is Evelyn Harper, a 30-year-old interior designer living in a cozy little house on Maple Lane in Rosewood, a quiet suburb just outside Seattle. This house isn't just where I sleep, it's my sanctuary, my creative haven. For 3 years, I poured my soul into turning a crumbling relic into a home that breathes life. I scrubbed every warped floorboard by hand, replaced every cracked window, and transformed the overgrown backyard into a garden bursting with roses that glow crimson and pink in the summer. The front room, where I display my design sketches and mood boards, is my pride and joy, a space where clients walk in and feel instantly inspired. Every corner of this house holds a piece of me, my late night sketching, my mornings tending the roses, my dreams of building a life here. For my birthday, I planned a small gathering, nothing fancy, just the people I love most. My mom, Diane, my uncle Edward, my older brother Nathan, and my cousin Cassandra, who always shows up to family events in a sleek dress that feels a touch too glamorous for our low-key vibe. The living room was warm with candlelight, the air sweet with the scent of lemon cake I'd baked that morning. Laughter bounced off the walls as we shared stories, and I felt a quiet contentment, like everything was finally falling into place. "Evelyn, open your gift," my mom said, her voice bright, her hands trembling slightly as she handed me an envelope wrapped in gold paper with a velvet ribbon. Her eyes sparkled and I grinned, thinking it might be a spa voucher or a sweet letter. My family wasn't big on extravagant gifts, so I wasn't expecting much, but the effort made my chest warm. I untied the ribbon, peeled back the paper, and slid out a stack of papers. My eyes caught the bold black letters at the top. Eviction notice. The world tilted. My hand froze, the papers trembling in my grip. The room went silent, the laughter snuffed out like a candle. "What is this?" I whispered, my voice barely mine. My mom looked down, her fingers twisting together. Uncle Edward stared out the window, his jaw tight. Nathan took a small step back, his face pale. And Cassandra? She smiled, but it wasn't her usual sunny grin. It was sharp, like she'd been waiting for this moment. "Evelyn, we need to be honest," my mom said, her voice so soft it barely carried. "The house is still in Edward's name. This neighborhood's value is skyrocketing. It's time to sell." I shot to my feet, the chair scraping harshly against the oak floor. "Sell? This is my house. I rebuilt every inch of it, my savings, my sweat, my heart." My voice cracked, but I didn't care. Cassandra set her wineglass down, her movements slow, deliberate. "On paper, it's never been yours, Evelyn," she said, her tone light but cutting. "I'm just helping the family make a smart choice. The market's hot right now, it's logical." I let out a hollow laugh, the sound bitter in my throat. Logical? So this is my birthday gift, an eviction notice? You've turned my home into a real estate deal? My dad, God rest his soul, would have been gutted to see this. He loved this house, used to sit with me in the garden and talk about how it'd be mine someday. Now, it felt like they were stealing his promise. Uncle Edward stayed silent, his head bowed. My mom reached for me, her eyes glassy. "You have 60 days to sort things out, Evelyn. We'll help with moving cost." I yanked my hand back, like her touch burned. "I don't need your money. I need answers. How long have you been planning this?" Cassandra tilted her chin, unfazed. "A few months. I've spoken to investors. They love the lot size, the location." Her voice was smooth, like she was pitching a client, not shattering my life. "This old house," she added, "it's just not practical anymore." "Old?" I choked on the word. Every wall, every window, every rose in that garden is my work. I've lived and breathed this place." Nathan finally spoke, his voice low. "Ev, maybe we can talk later. Let's not ruin today." I spun toward him, my heart pounding. "Ruin? You've already ruined it. I want the truth, now." No one answered. The silence was suffocating, pressing down on me until I could barely breathe. I stepped back, my eyes scanning their faces, familiar, yet suddenly foreign. "Get out," I said, my voice low but steady. "All of you, out of my house." My mom opened her mouth, but I cut her off. "Now." One by one, they filed out, heads down, avoiding my gaze. Only Cassandra lingered, her heels clicking softly on the floor. She faced me, her expression calm, almost amused. "You're making this bigger than it needs to be, Evelyn. Don't let emotions cloud your judgment." I walked to the door and flung it open. "Out, Cassandra." She gave me one last look, her eyes glinting with something cold, then stepped into the evening mist. The door slammed shut behind her. I stood there, the eviction notice still in my hand, my chest hollow. The house was quiet, but the echoes of their betrayal lingered. In that stillness, though, a spark flickered inside me. If Cassandra thought I'd roll over and let her take my home, she didn't know me at all. I sank into the armchair by the window, the roses outside swaying in the breeze, and made a silent vow. This wasn't over. The silence in my house after that birthday betrayal was deafening, like the walls themselves were holding their breath. I sat in my design studio, surrounded by sketches of dream homes I'd created for clients. But all I could see was that eviction notice, its cold words burned into my mind. My name is Evelyn Harper, and that house on Maple Lane in Rosewood wasn't just a building. It was my life's work, my refuge. I had spent 3 years turning a dilapidated shell into a home, with its polished oak floors, hand-painted walls, and a garden where roses bloomed like promises. The idea that my family, my own family, wanted to rip it away for a quick profit made my stomach churn. But as I stared at the papers, a new feeling crept in: suspicion. Cassandra, my cousin with her polished smiles and sharp words, was at the center of this. I could feel it, and I wasn't going to let her win without a fight. I picked up my phone and dialed Lila Gwynn, my best friend since our college days at UW. Lila's a freelance journalist, the kind of person who can sniff out a lie from a mile away and has a knack for organizing chaos. "Lila, I need you," I said, my voice raw. "Something's happened." Less than an hour later, she was at my door, her dark hair pulled into a messy bun, her backpack stuffed with a laptop and a stack of old files. She didn't ask questions, just gave me a quick hug and marched into my studio. "Spill it," she said, setting up her laptop on the drafting table. I handed her the eviction notice and told her everything. The birthday party, the betrayal, Cassandra's smug certainty that the house wasn't mine. Lila's eyes narrowed as she scanned the papers. "This reeks of a setup," she said. "You've got every permit for the renovations, right? I remember you obsessing over them." I nodded, pulling a box from under the desk. Every single one, city approvals, blueprints, the works. I kept them just in case. Lila grinned, her fingers already flying across her keyboard. "Good. Let's see what we're dealing with." We spent hours poring over the documents. Every permit was in order, signed and stamped by the Rosewood City Council. I'd been meticulous, double-checking every regulation when I turned the front room into my design studio. So why had Cassandra told my family I'd renovated illegally? I remembered her words at the party. "The neighbors complained, Evelyn. There's legal risk." But I'd never heard a peep from anyone on Maple Lane. The couple next door even brought me cookies when I planted the roses. Something wasn't adding up. "We need to know what Cassandra's playing at," I said, pacing the room. She mentioned investors. This isn't just about selling the house, it's bigger. Lila nodded, pulling up a browser. Let's start with her. Any names she dropped? I thought back to the party, to the way Cassandra's eyes gleamed when she talked about the hot market. Then it hit me. Nathan mentioned a guy, Julian Vance. He's her boyfriend, works in real estate. I texted my brother Nathan next. We used to be close, trading jokes and late-night talks about our dreams. Mine to design homes, his to build bridges as an engineer. But since he got married and moved to Tacoma, we'd drifted. Still, I knew he wasn't fully on board with Cassandra's plan. His hesitation at the party told me that. "Meet me, urgent," I wrote. He replied almost instantly, "Tomorrow, 7:30, Rosewood Cafe." The next morning, I arrived early, clutching a cup of chamomile tea to steady my nerves. Nathan walked in, looking like he hadn't slept, his flannel shirt rumpled. He slid into the booth across from me, avoiding my eyes. "You knew about the eviction notice, didn't you?" I asked, cutting to the chase. He sighed, running a hand through his hair. "Yeah, Cassandra told Mom and Uncle Edward a couple weeks ago. Said you'd built the studio without permits, that it could get us all sued. She showed them documents, Ev." "I didn't see them, but they bought it." I slid Lila's folder across the table, open to the permits. "These are the real ones, Nathan. Legal, verified, every single one. Cassandra lied." He flipped through the pages, his face draining of color. "So she played us? All of us?" I leaned forward, my voice steady. "Not just played us, she's got a plan. She's working with Julian Vance. I think they want the house for some kind of development deal." Nathan frowned, his engineer's brain kicking in. "Vance, Mom mentioned him once. He's with Vance Properties, big in commercial real estate. Cassandra's been bragging about his big project in Rosewood." My pulse quickened. "That's it. They're not just selling my house, they're probably planning to tear it down." Nathan looked at me, his jaw tight. "I'm sorry, Ev, I should have questioned her. What do you need?" "I need you to help me dig," I said. "If Cassandra's using fake documents, we'll prove it, and I need to know what Julian's up to." Nathan nodded, a spark of the old protectiveness in his eyes. "I'm in. Better late than never." Back at the house, Lila had news. She'd called a contact, Samantha Cole, who worked at the city's land records office. Samantha agreed to meet us at a diner after her shift. Over greasy fries and coffee, Samantha pulled out a thin file. "This is the complaint about your renovations," she said, sliding it toward me, supposedly filed by a neighbor. "But here's the thing. There's no case number, no official record in the system, and the complainant's name, John Miller, doesn't match any resident on Maple Lane. I checked the registry twice." I stared at the paper, my heart racing. "So it's fake?" Samantha nodded. "Looks like it. Someone went to a lot of trouble to make it seem real." Lila snapped a photo of the document, her eyes gleaming. "This is our first thread to pull. If Cassandra faked this, what else is she hiding?" That night, Lila and I sat in my studio, the roses outside glowing under the moonlight. We searched online for Vance Properties and found a press release, a proposed luxury resort in Rosewood, with a rendering that showed a sprawling complex right at 124 Maple Lane, my address. My stomach dropped. This wasn't just about money. Cassandra and Julian wanted to erase my home, my roses, my dreams, for a shiny new development. I looked at Leela, my voice steady despite the fear creeping in. "We're not just fighting for my house anymore. We're fighting for the truth." She nodded, her fingers hovering over her laptop. "Then let's find it. Cassandra's not as smart as she thinks." As we dug deeper, I felt a fire kindling inside me. Cassandra had underestimated me, and that was her first mistake. I wasn't alone, and I wasn't giving up. Not now, not ever. The air in my Rosewood home felt heavier after uncovering Cassandra's lies. My name is Evelyn Harper, a 30-year-old interior designer, and the house on Maple Lane was more than a roof over my head. It was my heart, my canvas, a place where I'd poured 3 years of sweat and love into every hand-painted wall and rose in the garden. Finding out my cousin Cassandra had faked documents to convince my family to evict me was a gut punch. But learning she and her boyfriend Julian Vance planned to bulldoze my home for a luxury resort lit a fire in me. I wasn't just fighting for my house anymore. I was fighting for every dream I'd built here. With my best friend Leela Nguyen and my brother Nathan by my side, I was ready to pull back the curtain on their scheme. But as we dug deeper, the stakes got higher and darker than I ever imagined. Lila and I set up camp in my design studio, the room where I'd spent countless nights sketching cozy living rooms and airy kitchens for clients. The eviction notice sat on the drafting table like an unwelcome guest, but we ignored it, focusing on the evidence we'd gathered, the fake complaint about my renovations with its non-existent neighbor and missing case number. Samantha Cole, our contact at the city's land records office, had confirmed it was a fraud, but we needed more. If Cassandra's bold enough to fake a complaint, Lila said, her journalist instincts kicking in, she's probably faked other documents to sell the house. We started with the land survey mentioned in the eviction notice, a document that supposedly gave Vance Properties the green light to develop my lot. Lila pulled it up from a public database, and we froze. The survey had signatures from my mom, Diane, and my uncle Edward, approving the sale. But something was off. The signatures looked too perfect, like they'd been traced or copied. "Mom would have told me if she signed anything," I said, my voice tight. "She's been distant, but she's not cruel." Lila nodded, zooming in on the document. "And this notary seal, look at the name. Patricia Reed. Isn't Reed Cassandra's last name?" My heart skipped. "Patricia's her mom, but she retired years ago, didn't she?" Lila's fingers flew across her laptop, pulling up state records. Sure enough, Patricia Reed had stopped practicing as a notary public 4 years earlier. "If this seal was used recently," Lila said, her eyes gleaming, "it's illegal. This could be our smoking gun." I felt a rush of hope, but also dread. Faking a notary seal wasn't just sneaky, it was a crime. How far was Cassandra willing to go? Nathan came over that evening, his engineer's precision a welcome addition to our chaotic investigation. He brought coffee and a lead. "I overheard Mom talking to Edward. Cassandra's been pushing them to finalize the sale at a fundraiser this weekend. Julian's hosting it, inviting big investors." I clenched my fists. "So they're rushing to sell before I can stop them." Nathan nodded, his face grim. "She's convinced everyone you're the problem, Ev. But I'm with you now. What's the plan?" "We need to prove the survey's fake," I said. "And we need to know exactly what Julian's pitching at that fundraiser." Lila suggested we loop in Samantha again. She's got access to more records. If we can confirm the signatures are forged, we'll have a solid case. I agreed, but a knot formed in my stomach. Cassandra wasn't acting alone, and people with money and power don't play fair. I just didn't know how dirty they'd get. The next morning, I woke to a chilling sight. The front door of my design studio was streaked with red spray paint, the words "Leave Now" scrawled in jagged letters. My roses, the ones I'd nurtured for years, were trampled, their petals scattered like confetti from a cruel prank. I stood there, my breath shallow, as fear coiled in my chest. This wasn't just a warning, it was personal. I called the police, who took photos and filed a report, but they had no leads. "Install cameras," the officer said. "And be careful." I nodded, but my mind was racing. Cassandra knew I was onto her. I texted Lila and Nathan and they rushed over. Lila's face hardened when she saw the paint. "This is intimidation, Ev. They're scared because we're getting close." Nathan clenched his jaw, inspecting the damage. "I'm setting up cameras tonight. No one's touching this place again." Their support steadied me. But the violation lingered. My studio, where I'd dreamed up beautiful spaces, felt tainted. Still, I refused to back down. If Cassandra thought she could scare me out of my home, she was dead wrong. Samantha met us at the City Hall archives the next day, her expression serious. She'd dug up the original property records for my house and compared them to the survey. "The signatures don't match," she said, pointing to subtle differences in the loops and angles. "These were definitely forged. And the notary seal? It's from a batch Patricia Reed surrendered when she retired. Someone reused it illegally." I exhaled a mix of relief and anger. "So we've got proof the survey's fake. Can we use this to stop the sale?" "You'll need a lawyer," Samantha said, "and more evidence to tie it to Cassandra and Julian." Lila snapped photos of the records, her mind already racing. "We need to know what's happening at that fundraiser. If they're pitching the resort, they'll have documents." "Maybe ones that incriminate them," Nathan chimed in. "I know a guy, a lawyer friend from college. He can help us prep a legal challenge, but we need to move fast." That night, Lila and I scoured Vance Properties' website. Buried in a press kit was a glossy brochure for Rosewood Retreat, a luxury resort with pools, spas, and glass-walled suites. Slated for 124 Maple Lane, my house. The rendering showed no trace of my garden, my studio, my life. It was like I'd been erased. "They're not just selling," I said, my voice trembling. "They're obliterating everything I've built." Lila squeezed my shoulder. "Then we'll obliterate their lies." The threats escalated 2 days later. I found an email in my inbox, no sender name, just a subject line, "Stop now." Attached were photos of my house, my studio, my garden, even the window where I'd hung a stained glass panel I'd made. Each image had a red X slashed across it. My hands shook as I showed Layla. "They've been here," I whispered, "inside my space." She called the police again, who added the email to their file, but I knew this was Cassandra's doing, or Julian. They were watching me, trying to break me. Nathan installed cameras that afternoon, his face set with determination. "No one's getting near you again, Ev." But the fear lingered, a shadow I couldn't shake. I barely slept, jumping at every creak in the house. Still, I clung to the evidence we'd gathered, the forged signatures, the illegal notary seal, the fake complaint. It was enough to start unraveling their plan, but we needed more to bring them down. Leela had an idea. "Let's crash that fundraiser," she said, her eyes glinting with defiance. "If we can get inside, we might find something. Documents, conversations, anything to nail them." Nathan hesitated. "It's risky. They'll know we're coming." I looked at the photos on my desk, the red X's staring back. "I'm done playing safe," I said. "Cassandra wants a war? I'll give her one." We spent the next day planning. Nathan's lawyer friend, Mark, agreed to review our evidence and draft a cease and desist letter to stall the sale. Samantha promised to keep digging for any permits tied to Vance Properties. Lila hacked together a fake press pass to get us into the fundraiser, posing as a journalist covering Rosewood's development boom. As we mapped out our strategy, I felt a shift inside me. The fear was still there, but it was drowned out by a fierce resolve. My house, my roses, my dreams. They were worth fighting for. And I wasn't alone. Standing in my garden that evening, the roses battered but still standing, I made a promise to myself. Cassandra thought she could bury me, but she'd miscalculated. I was digging my way out, and when I did, the truth would shine brighter than her lies. The fundraiser was our chance to strike, and I was ready to walk into the lion's den. The air in Rosewood felt charged, like a storm was about to break. My name is Evelyn Harper, a 30-year-old interior designer, and the house on Maple Lane was my everything. 3 years of my heart poured into its rose garden, its handcrafted studio, its very soul. But my cousin Cassandra, with her boyfriend Julian Vance, had tried to steal it, using forged documents and lies to evict me and turn my home into a luxury resort. I'd faced their threats, vandalized doors, chilling photos marked with red X's, but with my best friend Lila Nguyen, my brother Nathan, and our ally Samantha from the city's land records office, I'd built a case to fight back. Tonight, at Julian's lavish fundraiser, I was going to tear their plan apart in front of everyone. My hands trembled, but my resolve was iron. This was my moment. The fundraiser was at the Rosewood Grand Hotel, a glittering venue with chandeliers casting golden light over marble floors. I wasn't invited, but Lila's fake press pass and Nathan's charm got us through the door. I wore a simple navy dress, my grandmother's pearl pendant around my neck like a talisman, reminding me of the love I'd poured into my home. The room buzzed with investors in tailored suits, their laughter mingling with the clink of champagne glasses. Cassandra stood at the center, radiant in a silver gown, her arm looped through Julian's. He looked every inch the confident developer, but when Cassandra's eyes met mine across the room, her smile faltered. "Evelyn," she hissed, gliding toward me, her heels clicking sharply. "What are you doing here?" I held up Lila's press pass, my voice steady. "Wouldn't miss it for the world." Her gaze darted to Julian, who was chatting with a group of investors, then back to me, her composure cracking. "You shouldn't be here," she said, but I brushed past her, my heart pounding. This wasn't her night anymore. It was mine. Lila had slipped a USB drive into my hand before we entered, loaded with every piece of evidence we'd gathered. The forged land survey with my mom and uncle's fake signatures, the illegal notary seal from Cassandra's retired mother, the fraudulent complaint about my renovations, and a damning audio clip we'd received just days ago. Nathan was stationed near the exit, ready to signal if things went south. Samantha had sent the evidence to the city's legal department, but tonight wasn't about paperwork. It was about truth, laid bare for all to see. I stepped onto the small stage, where a projector hummed, my pulse roaring in my ears. I tapped a wine glass, the chime cutting through the chatter. "May I have your attention?" I said, my voice clear despite the knot in my chest. Heads turned, eyes curious. Cassandra froze mid-step, her face paling. Julian's smile tightened, his hand gripping her arm. Before the presentations begin, I continued. "I'd like to share something about the Rosewood Retreat Project and the house at 124 Maple Lane." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. I plugged the USB into the projector and the screen lit up with the resort's glossy rendering. Sleek buildings where my roses should be, my studio erased. "This is my home," I said, my voice steady but fierce. "I've lived there for 3 years, rebuilt it with my own hands, but this project was planned without my consent, using forged documents." The screen shifted to the land survey, the fake signatures of my mom and uncle highlighted in red. Gasps echoed. A man in a pinstripe suit, James Carver, a major investor, leaned forward, his brow furrowed. "These signatures were forged," I said. "The notary seal belongs to Patricia Reed, who hasn't been licensed in 4 years. The complaint about my renovations, fabricated. No neighbor, no case number." I clicked to the next slide, a photo of the fake complaint Samantha had uncovered. The room grew tense, investors whispering. Carver stood, his voice sharp. "You're making serious accusations, Miss Harper. Do you have proof?" I nodded, my heart racing. "I do." I pressed play, and Cassandra's voice filled the room, cold and calculated. "Let them think Evelyn's breaking the law. Once the house loses protection, we'll buy it for pennies. After the fundraiser, it's ours." Julian's voice followed. "I've scrubbed the records. No one will trace it." The silence was deafening, heavy as stone. Cassandra's face drained of color, her eyes wide with panic. Julian stepped forward, his voice tight. "This is a misunderstanding." "No," I cut him off, my gaze locked on the crowd. "This is fraud." The screen showed an email from Julian to Cassandra, outlining their plan to mislead investors about the property's status. The room erupted in murmurs, investors pulling out phones, some heading for the exits. Carver slammed his glass down. "Vance, is this true?" Before Julian could answer, I dropped the bombshell. "I owe thanks to the person who sent me that recording," I said, my voice steady. All eyes followed mine to a woman at the back of the room. Margaret Vance, Julian's mother. She stepped forward, her silver hair catching the light, her expression a mix of sorrow and resolve. "I recorded it," she said, her voice trembling but firm. "I couldn't let my son and Ms. Reed destroy an innocent woman's life." The room gasped. Julian stared at his mother, his jaw slack. "Mom, why would you?" Margaret raised a hand, silencing him. "I met Evelyn at a local craft fair last year. She helped me design my study, and I saw the love in her work, her home. When I overheard you and Cassandra plotting, I knew I had to act. I won't let you ruin our family's name or hers." Her words hung in the air, a blade cutting through the lies. Cassandra's composure shattered. "You traitor!" She spat at Margaret, but her voice broke. I held Margaret's gaze, gratitude swelling in my chest. Two plainclothes officers entered the room, their badges glinting. One approached Cassandra. "Mrs. Cassandra Reed, you're under investigation for document forgery and conspiracy to commit fraud. Please come with us." Cassandra's eyes darted to me, blazing with fury. "You'll pay for this, Evelyn," she hissed. But the officer gently guided her out. Julian stood frozen, investors abandoning him, Carver tearing up a contract in disgust. My mom Diane had slipped into the room late, her face pale as she watched the chaos unfold. I stepped off the stage, my legs shaky, and faced her. "I'm sorry it had to be public," I said, my voice soft but raw, "but I couldn't let them lie about me anymore." Her eyes filled with tears and she reached for my hand. "Evelyn, I didn't know. I believed her. I'm so sorry." I squeezed her hand, the weight of her apology heavy but real. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet, but it was a start. Outside, the cool night air brushed my skin, the stars bright above Rosewood. Lila joined me, her arm around my shoulders. "You did it, Ev," she whispered. Nathan followed, his expression a mix of pride and guilt. "I should have stood up sooner," he said. I shook my head. "You're here now." Margaret approached, her eyes kind. "You fought for what's right, Evelyn. I'm proud of you." I nodded, my throat tight. The battle wasn't over, but the truth was out, and my house still stood. For the first time in weeks, I felt like I could breathe. The dust settled slowly in Rosewood, like petals falling after a storm. "My name is Evelyn Harper, a 30-year-old interior designer, and the house on Maple Lane was my heart's home. A place I'd spent 3 years crafting with hand-painted walls, polished floors, and a rose garden that bloomed with hope. My cousin Cassandra and her boyfriend Julian Vance had nearly stolen it, using forged documents to evict me and pave the way for a luxury resort. But with the help of my best friend Lila Wynne, my brother Nathan, and an unexpected ally in Julian's mother, Margaret Vance, I'd exposed their lies at a glittering fundraiser, saving my home and shattering their scheme. Cassandra faced investigation. Julian's investors fled, and the truth was finally free. Now, standing in my garden under a spring sky, I was ready to heal and to build something new. 6 weeks after that night, Maple Lane felt alive again. The roses, once trampled by vandals, had begun to bloom, their crimson and pink petals a quiet defiance. My design studio, where red paint had once screamed, "Leave now," was now a haven of light, its windows open to the breeze. I'd won the legal battle to keep the house. Samantha's evidence and Margaret's recording had sealed the case, but the victory was more than paperwork. It was the peace I felt walking through my home, knowing it was truly mine. Lila was my constant, showing up every morning with coffee and wild ideas. "Let's turn your studio into a community space," she said one day, sketching plans on a napkin. "Teach design classes, host workshops, make this place a hub." I loved the idea. My house had always been about creation, and now it could be a gift to others. Nathan came by on weekends, his wife and kids in tow, helping me repaint the fence and plant new roses. "I'm making up for lost time," he said, his smile sheepish. I hugged him, grateful for the brother I'd gotten back. My mom, Diane, was slower to return. The fundraiser had broken something in her. Guilt for believing Cassandra's lies, shame for not trusting me. One quiet afternoon, she appeared at my door, holding a small wooden box. "This was your grandmother's," she said, her voice soft. Inside was a framed photo of Gran standing in the garden, her hands cradling a rose, her smile radiant. "She loved this house," Mom said. "She always said it was the family's soul." "I forgot that, Evelyn. I'm so sorry." I took her hand, my eyes stinging. "We'll rebuild, Mom. Together." It wasn't full forgiveness, but it was a bridge, and that was enough for now. Margaret Vance surprised me most. I'd expected her to fade away after the fundraiser, her role as the whistleblower complete. But she called a week later, her voice warm. "I'd like to help, Evelyn. Not to make amends for Julian, but because I believe in what you're doing." She offered to fund a community design center, no strings attached. I hesitated, wary of anything tied to Vance Properties, but her sincerity won me over. "It's for Rosewood," she said. "For people like you, who make it special." I accepted, not because I forgave Julian, but because I believed in second chances. For her, for all of us. Cassandra's fate was quieter. The courts handed her a suspended sentence for document forgery and fraud, and she left Rosewood without a word. My family didn't speak of her, as if her name carried too much weight. Julian resigned from Vance Properties, his reputation in tatters. I didn't hate them, not anymore. They'd tried to break me, but they'd only made me stronger. I poured my energy into the community center. The studio became a classroom, its walls lined with sketches from students. Kids learning to draw, adults rediscovering creativity. Lila taught a journaling workshop, her laughter filling the room. Nathan built shelves for art supplies, his kids giggling as they helped with paintbrushes. Margaret stopped by often, her quiet presence a reminder that family isn't always blood, it's the people who show up. The center's opening was a celebration, not grand like Julian's fundraiser, but warm and real. I hosted it in the garden under strings of fairy lights that twinkled against the dusk. Tables groaned with homemade food. Lila's spring rolls, Nathan's wife's brownies, my lemon cake. Neighbors mingled with students, their voices weaving a tapestry of stories. Margaret brought a gift, a hand-carved sign for the center, engraved with Harper House. A place to create. "This is your legacy, Evelyn," she said, her eyes bright. I swallowed hard, too moved to speak. Lila pulled me aside as the party hummed. "You should make this a tradition," she said, nodding at the crowd. a day of hope when you took your life back. I smiled, my heart full. A day of roots, I said, glancing at the roses. Nathan raised a glass, his voice carrying over the chatter. To Evelyn, who didn't just save a house but showed us what it means to fight for what's right. Glasses clinked, and I raised mine, whispering to myself, and to those who rise. Later, after the guests had gone, I sat on the garden bench, the spring breeze soft against my skin. The roses swayed, their scent wrapping around me like a hug. I looked at the house, every window glowing, every brick a testament to my resilience. This wasn't just where I lived, it was where I belonged. The betrayal that had nearly broken me had led to something greater. A community, a purpose, a family forged not by blood but by love. I thought of Gran, her photo now hanging in the studio, her smile a beacon. She'd taught me that a home is more than walls. It's the memories you weave, the people you hold close. Cassandra had tried to take that from me, but she'd only shown me how strong I could be. I wasn't just Evelyn Harper, the designer. I was Evelyn, the fighter, the dreamer, the woman who'd reclaimed her heart. And no one could take that away again.